Welcome. Welcome. Please have a seat. My name is John Amanatides. I'm chair of the Community Safety Council. I'm glad that you're here and participating in this. No problem. My name is John Amanatides, chair of the Community Safety Council, and I welcome you to this open forum. Let me share with you briefly what the role of the CSC. It was created 2 years ago by the METREC audit, safety audit recommendation, and its role was to strengthen the community's role in contributing to planning, monitoring, and evaluating safety programs, policies, and practices on campus. We have 55 members on the Community Safety Council from a wide variety of constituencies. And I'm going to ask them to stand up, including my co-chair Nadim Latim. Come on, just stand up, because I want people to know who represents them on the council and who they can go to talk about their concerns, about suggestions of ways to improve safety on campus. Thank you. More information about the Community Safety Council, the METREC report, and how York has progressed in implementing its recommendations can be found at yorku.ca/safety. And the Safety Council is committed to continuing the dialogue with community, and we will be working on future opportunities in the winter term to continue the conversation about safety. Thank you for coming. And our moderator today will be the Vice President, Academic and Provost, Rhonda Lenton.
So good afternoon, everyone. I really would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you for taking time out of your schedules to attend today. This is the President's first open forum on campus safety. I think it's an incredibly important opportunity. The importance of the event, frankly, is really reflected in the turnout that we see in the room today. So in a moment, I'm going to introduce the panel, and I'm also going to invite President Shukri to say a few introductory remarks. He will be followed by our Vice President of Finance and Administration, Gary Brewer, and then we're going to look forward to hearing from you. Before getting underway, though, I would like to say just a few brief remarks from me personally as the moderator of today's forum. We all share an understanding that the role of the university is to educate our students and to produce the crucial knowledge that's necessary for a creative economy by supporting research, scholarship, and creative activities. And I want to say that the senior administration of this university is committed to ensuring that our students, our staff, and our faculty have the conditions that they need to realize those goals. There are two primary purposes of today's forum. One is we very much want to raise awareness. We want to raise awareness about how we as a community must collaborate together on creating a safe and respectful space. That will include the many provisions that York University has already put in place. But secondly, we are a learning institution, and we understand that we can always learn more from each other. So today is an important opportunity to get input from all of you, from our members, that we will endeavor to integrate into the future plans that are in progress to enhance those provisions that we already have established. We are only going to be successful today. We're only going to achieve what we really hope to achieve today if we each listen carefully to each other. We all have something to say on this important matter. And if we listen and try to understand, work collaboratively, and are respectful about each other's points of views. We also have a limited amount of time. So we were trying to judge based on the attendance, the volume. about what might be a reasonable amount of time for each person to speak. The room is packed. And because of that, and because we really want to hear from as many of you as possible, I think I'm going to borrow a little bit from the general framework of how we manage Senate meetings around matters of really important of discourse or discussion. So I'm going to ask that we respect the following guidelines. Each person must be recognized before speaking. We are going to have floating mics that we can take. All you have to do is raise your hand. I would ask that each person will speak once. If there's an opportunity to have someone speak a second time or to respond, I'm happy to try to accommodate that. But in fairness to the volume of people in the room, I would ask that we allow each person to speak once. And that will mean, as a general guideline, that no individual person will be able to speak for much longer than 2 minutes. And I'm asking your cooperation in those guidelines. And finally, the issue of campus safety inevitably will extend and touch on a variety of other issues. But today, the particular focus of this open forum is about the issue of campus safety, safety on our York University campuses. So I'm going to ask, to the extent that it's possible for you to do so, to really focus your remarks on what you feel needs to be heard about campus safety. So joining us today to respond to your questions and suggestions is our panel. We have with us the President and Vice-Chancellor of York University, Mamdouh Shukri. We have Gary Brewer, our Vice President, Finance and Administration. We have Janet Morrison, the Vice Provost of Students. Vanessa Hunt, VP Gender, the York Federation, President.
Sophia's.
It's actually Sophia, the Vice President Equity, taking over for Vanessa for today.
Okay, so that change was not given to me, so hang on a minute. Gotta work on my feet here. So who is replacing Vanessa?
My name is Sophia Hussain. I'm the Vice President Equity for the York Federation of Students.
Thank you very much. But Tanya's here. And Tanya McFadden, VP Gender, Graduate Students Association. We also have Al Coulter, Lead Investigator for the Toronto Police Service, and Rick Blanchard, Staff Sergeant, Community Response Unit, Toronto Police Service. And we're also going to be getting support over here on our table, because this is being webcast and questions may come in through there. So we have some staff from the Office of the President. For those of you who are watching through webcast, just let me remind you that you can post your questions via the web forum. It is therefore now my pleasure to call on President Shukri to say a few words.
So good afternoon, everybody, and I'd like to thank you all for being here today. What we are witnessing today at York is really a community coming together to share common concerns and to develop a community response to safety. Safety being the most important element to any community. Such gatherings are never easy. Our community is understandably upset about safety, which clearly has been magnified by last week's incidents. I am as concerned as anyone with the number and frequency of incidents that happened recently on campus. We all understand that issues of safety at their very core are actually societal issues. Exploitation, gender-based assault, and power-based violence are all issues that our society must address. Our role as a university, and particularly York University as a progressive university, is to engage our community on these long-term issues and to develop shared sense of responsibility. We, and when I say we, I mean the community, students, faculty, staff, and all partners and collaborators have a responsibility to be part of the solution. Indeed, we must accept our responsibility to take on that leadership role. We have countless leaders here at York University, within our student community, within our faculty, our staff, and whom are all committed to making change and taking a stand from an academic point of view and as engaged citizens. As I have publicly said before, York is committed to building a community where mutual respect extends to all levels of our social encounters and relationships. And it is my hope that all members of our community can contribute in their own way to achieving this goal. Shortly after I arrived at York 5 years ago, student leaders made it clear that we needed to look more holistically at safety on campus. I commissioned METRAC to do a thorough safety audit of campus. Since the receipt of their report in June 2010, we have made many improvements which should not be ignored as we discuss recent incidents. As John mentioned, we created the Community Safety Council to provide ongoing advice on safety at York, and my support for the work of CSC is unwavering. We have been implementing the 100+ METRAC recommendations and have made sizable investments, which I will leave Vice President Brewer to bring to attention. But safety is an ongoing dynamic process. We will always be looking for new ways to do things. When I use the word, it's a dynamic process, what I mean, it is continuously evolving. And you learn lessons. Lessons provide new inputs and new feedbacks into a system that we created that we would be creating to maintain safety and security on campus. As such, this system is I call it dynamic because it will continue to evolve with the help and the continuous feedback and the continuous input and the continuous learned experience. We must work together to ensure that we are at the forefront of engagement and community building. I ask that you continue to be part of this important journey with me. Safety is our collective responsibility. Thank you.
I think it's thank you very much, President Shukri. And I think it's a very important piece of today, prior to opening it up to the audience for questions and answers, to get a bit of the context and the background of what York University has already put in place. It's very important for us that students and staff and our faculty are aware of some of the steps that they can take in thinking about their own safety. So it's my pleasure to call on Gary Brewer, our Vice President, Finance and Administration.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to add my thanks to all of you for coming and being part of this meeting today. As both President Shukri and Rhonda Lenton have indicated, I'll be framing my remarks around some of the work that we have done over the past couple of years, largely in response to the METRAC safety audit that was commissioned by the President and released in June 2010. But while that report has guided our work, there have been other measures introduced really just as part of our ongoing review of issues and needs to improve safety on campus. As the President noted, there were some 101 recommendations that were included in the METRAC report. And at this point, we have either implemented or are significantly advanced on about 70% of those. METRAC framed its recommendations over really 3 time periods: a near-term piece, a medium-term piece, and a longer-term piece that extended out to about 5 years. Obviously, we've been taking these recommendations and focusing on the near-term and medium-term initiatives. So some of the concrete steps that as a university we've been taking through investing in money, people, and processes include the following. One of the key recommendations in the METRAC report was a review of the university's security model. And in fact, this has been done. York security personnel have all been retrained and certified over this past summer with enhanced roles and responsibilities that were actually implemented on November 20th of this year. Our security officials have been issued with personal protective equipment and are now empowered to effect citizens' power of arrest where circumstances warrant. So a significant change to our security model. We have a new security bulletin protocol that's been approved. In an effort to be transparent and to empower our community to self-assess risk, security bulletins are now emailed to students, staff, and faculty. In fact, York is one of the only, if not the only, university in Ontario that has taken this approach. 17 new exterior blue phones are being added this fall at a cost of about $200,000, which will increase our exterior emergency phones by over 50%. 70 LCD screens have now been installed across the Kiel campus, with 2 now at the Glendon College campus as well. Some $400,000 has been spent on lighting upgrades over the past 2 years. York has over 3,500 exterior lights, and we are committed to have no more than 100 burnt out at a given time. We do regular campus lighting walkthroughs to identify lighting issues, and as recently as I think about 2 weeks ago, we had a lighting tour doing just that on campus. We also have a website called lightout@yorku.ca, which any member of the community can use to report a light out or what they feel is a lighting situation that isn't safe, and that email is reviewed on a daily basis. The campus shuttle has been expanded into the village, and it is now served by 3 routes, including stops on all residential streets. Our Go Safe was recently expanded to meet increased demand, and indeed demand has doubled during the first 6 months of this year compared to last year. We have a pilot project public address system being expanded into all buildings at the Kiel campus over the next 3 years. The Center for Human Rights is reforming the former Sexual Assaults Initiative Committee as the Sexual Assault Prevention Committee. Center for Human Rights has also hired a new Programs and Outreach Advisor to bring the REAT to completion. That's the Respect, Inclusivity, Awareness Tutorial, which is now known as READY. Respect, Equity, Diversity, Inclusivity, an online training tutorial. Center for Human Rights has also hired a new Sexual Harassment Prevention Education Advisor who will be addressing sexual assault prevention. I think these latter initiatives that I've just spoken of in the Center for Human Rights reflect the need not just to look at safety narrowly in terms of lighting and equipment and additional security officers. They're important, but they're not the whole story. As the President has noted, many of the issues that we're dealing with at York are societal issues. They extend into the city, the province, and beyond. And many of our efforts are actually directed at trying to get at some of the root and societal issues that we're facing. My office has hired a safety initiatives coordinator to support a new campus-wide safety awareness campaign. Through education, empowerment, the goal of the campaign is to create a community that feels valued and safe. And we'll see the first rollout of that early in the new year. So in closing, I'll note that we need York to be a leader on these issues. No stone will be left unturned as we work with our community partners to make York a safer place.
Thank you very much, Gary. So I'm going to be doing my best to actually be taking some notes so that I can try to provide a bit of a wrap-up on the key messages that we're hearing. we indicated after providing you with a bit of context that we think it's a crucial opportunity for us to hear from our community, from all of our community members, faculty, staff, and students. And again, just as a very brief reminder, if you would please put up your hand, someone with a mic will come to you so that we can hear you clearly. And we would also ask that you would please limit your remarks to 2 minutes initially. If I have more time, I will come back to you. But just in the instance to try to make sure that we can hear from as many people as possible. And it is our goal to try to take away the input that we hear from you and have it inform the plans that we have, the ongoing plans that we have in place, to enhance campus safety for all of our community members. Okay, so I've got, I don't know where our mics are, but we've got over here, we've got over here, we've got over there. So can you maybe start with the gentleman here in orange?
Test.
Hello, my name is Sas Ansari. I'm the GLSA representative who's come here today. I've got a number of questions, but I'll limit it to 2 questions and 1 suggestion. The 2 questions I have are, what is the relative crime rate or incident rate on the York campus compared to the community? And that question is aimed at finding out whether York students are being targeted at a disproportionate rate compared to the rest of the community. Is this an easy target zone, perhaps? The second question relates to the suspects, the ones that have been identified. Are they students or are they non-students? And the comment and perhaps suggestion is that I and others have noticed a greater police presence on campus over the past week. These are uniformed officers that I've noticed are in highly densely populated areas. And I'm just wondering whether that perhaps serves more for psychological security of people who are walking through these areas. And I'm wondering if there is also perhaps a bait car program like BC has, where there are ununiformed officers that are walking around in places where they could be victimized in order to try to see if there are people that are targeting in those areas. Thank you.
So, Gary, do you want to start?
I think I can take the first question, and that is the crime rate on the York campus. We do have statistics which compare, for one metric, the crimes against persons per 1,000 population. The York campus is about 1/5 of the rate seen across the City of Toronto. So from the City of Toronto annual report for 2011, it was about 11 per 1,000. The York campus was about 2. So that's roughly about a 5-to-1 ratio. And that ratio has stayed fairly consistent over the past 5 years that we have data available for.
Sorry, before you move on, do you have a non-ratio-based analysis number of incidents relative to like adjacent communities? Because I'm always a little wary of
I think it's going to be really important that we use mics. And if possible, I'll allow you 1 response back.
Okay.
But then I already see we have a lot of hands up, so I want to really make sure that we're going to move around the room. So you had a clarification of the question?
Yeah, I was just wondering if there's a non-statistics based analysis of the incidents on campus, perhaps just raw numbers compared to immediate community rather than across Greater Toronto.
I don't have that, and we don't typically track that. We use the information that's available in the public reports.
Should I say something here? I have something which I, on my own, because of my personal, obviously, concern, although that I obtained from the websites of different websites for the Toronto Police, which shows graphically incidents and numbers of incidents. And I mean, just don't take this as an official answer or anything. This is a personal effort to do it, and this is sort of York University, and this is around, without naming any names, this is the number of incidents out another university in the same city. So we are not, but in any event, I'm not going to go through this, but I want to just be very clear about something here. I sincerely, notwithstanding our incredible concern about the rise, you heard what the rise of incidents in the last week or 10 days. This is serious concern, very serious concern, and that was the why we have this meeting. I also share what Mr. Brewer just mentioned, which is over the last 4 years, there has been a steady decline in incidents at York. But maybe they are highly publicized because we have a different way of sharing it with people. That said, I've said that before, and I will continue to say that as long as I'm here. We are not going to hide behind the statistics. I believe we have a campus that's a reflection of the Greater Toronto area. Nothing here that suggests to me that I am in an unsafe place as compared to be anywhere in Toronto, probably to the contrary, as the statistics shows. However, this is not good enough for me, because when incidents do happen, they affect people, they affect our reputation, they affect the safety of people. And these incidents, I mean, people told me don't have to keep repeating what I always say, but I'll be myself. One incident is one too many, and one incident makes us concerned. And that's why we will continue sharing information with everybody. We'll continue to be concerned, and we'll continue creating that, what I call a dynamic plan, where we want feedback all the time, and we hope to be able to correct that. So I believe we have a safe campus when compared, on average, notwithstanding that we had increased number of incidents last week or last 10 days. But it's not safe enough for me, and I want to see what we can do together to get to the next level.
Okay, I'm going to go back to, there's a gentleman sitting right.
No, he came over here.
There?
He came over here. He came over here. My hand was up first for everybody, so.
I'm going to get to you, Yafat, I promise.
You know what? Follow her directions.
I'm going to get to you.
You snuck through the chairs and everything.
Everybody, let me reassure you.
My hand was up for everybody.
Everybody, I'm trying to figure out where the mic is. Everybody who has their hand up, everybody who has their hand up is going to be allowed to speak, okay? Go ahead.
Hi there, my name is Ashish Oberoi, and I'm a third-year political science student. I have two questions. The first was just a repeat of the second one that's there, which I was really hoping for an answer for, which was, when we talk about incidents on campus, how many of them are committed by people who are students here itself, of the ones who are convicted, and how many of them are from outside our community? Because we might try taking steps towards improving our own programs to improve things at York, but if there's more incidents coming from people who are not on campus and from perhaps one of the more statistically, areas which has high crime around here, like, I'm gonna say Jane Finch. Hey, hold on. And the second one is, I do study on campus at night quite often, and thank you so much for having the library open from Sunday nights to Thursday nights. The problem is that I'm not the only one. There's quite a few people on campus who study on Friday nights, Saturday nights as well. And one of the problems that comes up is we don't have a secure area where we can go by ourselves and we know it's open for us to study. So often we'll end up in lecture halls or somewhere because we still have things due on Monday or Tuesday, or we might have an exam due the next day. So sometimes I'm trying to find some place where I can lock myself into a lecture hall so I'm not going to be facing problems during the day. Would you consider perhaps during exam time, making the library 24/7 instead of 24/5? That would be something that would help quite a few of us, because at TEL, which is one of the buildings we end up in, there will be up to 40 people at night sometimes, and there's no security for us. There's absolutely there's no measures. Thank you.
Go
May I
ahead.
respond?
Sure.
Hi, so my name's Tanya. I'm from the Graduate Student Association at York. I just want to caution folks about using divisive language around communities. So I just want to make the comment that we are all a community, irregardless of where our boundaries end and where they begin. So maybe we need to have a further conversation about what kind of community are we speaking about? Because we hear about this word community all the time. You've heard it from the president today. But what does that actually mean? It's staff, faculty, students, but we have a greater community that we have a responsibility to, and we don't necessarily build bridges with those communities. So I just want to put it out there that we should really think about the language we use when we're talking about communities, because people live there, and that we don't make a division between us as a community here at York and the surrounding community that we came into. Let me just put that out there. We came into a community, so we have a responsibility to that community. So just put that out there.
Thank you for those remarks. Yafet.
Well, we just spoke on the phone, so. Actually, I'm glad that question got to go before me, because it gets to highlight the seriousness of what we're actually seeing and the racism that gets to be sprouted on this campus. Really? Why? Okay. That gets to be spouted on this campus without any sort of reproach or any sort of response from the university. And this is really timely. And I'm glad the president got to speak about the fact that this is not, he feels that York University is not different from anywhere else, and it's not different, because within the 2 days that we've seen why is my microphone dying? Within the 2 days of the.
We can hear you clearly.
Yeah, really? Because it dies on me here. Within the 2 days of the police being on this campus, they've been carting and stopping every single young black man they can get their hands on. So he's right. It is like the rest of Toronto, because that's what police do in the rest of Toronto. They stop every single black man they get to see. So, and this is especially timely because we have a hard time believing, and this coalition here that is here, have a hard time believing that police are here to promote security and safety. And it seems that it's really used as a guise, because the history of York University has shown that whenever police have been on this campus, it's been to quell dissent. It's here to quell protest and demonstrations. There's a long history of police brutalizing people right here on this campus who tried to actively speak against that. In fact, when the Excalibur student newspaper got to write an article that spouted exactly the same thing we just heard in this question, saying that all the crimes happen because they come from Jane and Finch, and didn't get to provide any statistics, to get to just rely on the stereotypes that people believe, then we say that there's a bigger problem here than just safety and security, and that if you really care about addressing the safety and security concerns of the community, you would address the demands that our coalition has. And I would like to actually put them to you. But first, I would like to know, since we have high-ranking officials here from York University, will York University, for once and for all, finally apologize to the Jane and Finch community and the larger racialized community for this espousing of these racist remarks that have gone unresponded to by Mr. Shukri and the rest of the York University administration. And the second set of expectations we have of York University is that if you truly care about building substantial, deep partnerships with communities such as Jane and Finch and other racialized communities, we would say that, one, to do that, you would provide free education to all black students and non-white students, because of the history of colonialism and imperialism that has been inflicted in Canada, and that York University has been complicit in. And by bringing Toronto Police Service onto this campus, it is spoken to that. Will they provide substantial funding finally for African Caribbean and other critical studies departments to truly address the root causes and actually provide a critical education, so my friend here in the front can actually get an education where he doesn't get to say that Jane and Finch is the one committing all these crimes? Will they finally, York University has one of the largest black student populations in Canada, probably next to Dalhousie, and there's not a single black studies department. In fact, all we hear are budget concerns. And when the majority of the students who come here, or when quite a large portion of the students that come here come from Jane and Finch and take courses such as race and ethnicity studies and African American studies, will York finally fund a black studies department and put their money where their mouth is? And so these and I want to hear from York finally responding to this. That's it. I got it, Rhonda.
Okay.
Good. Go ahead.
Okay. So you've raised some good points, Jeff, although you also will appreciate that you're extending the issues a little bit beyond the okay. You know what? We're not gonna, yeah. Okay, I'm really coming here to encourage a real open discussion, and there needs to be mutual respect in the room, and I'm asking you for that. Okay. So Yafet has raised some really important points, And I'm calling him by his first name because we just spoke yesterday, and so I hope that's okay. You can also call me Rhonda. Just, you know, we need to be equitable here. I want to say, on behalf of the York University administration, that there is, on the one hand, a need to protect the academic rights of people in terms of what their arguments might be. I do not support the views that were expressed in Excalibur. And I think that that particular piece that you're referring to was very unhelpful and divisive. And that's not what we want to be doing at this university. We want to be working together collaboratively. So let me just start off by saying that publicly. Now, are there members of the panel who would like to respond? President Shukri?
I certainly do. First of all, let me go back to something the provost just said, which is, please, let's not make this as an issue that will be divisive, and listen and try and listen to each other very carefully, and try and listen to what I'm going to tell you. I will talk to you as I always do, frankly, and I want you to listen. If you agree, no disruptions, so that we can get going with the meeting. But let me start by saying,
You just kicked me out of your office last week.
What is that?
Yes, Fat.
You just kicked me out of your office last week. On November 12th.
Yes, I did. I did not kick you out, but let me.
Yes, Fat.
Please don't do what you did then, where you create a side issue. Let me answer the question, because you asked. I wish you told me what you told me today, because you refused. You refused. You insisted on, walked into my office, which I was happy to talk to you. You insisted on videotaping me.
Yeah.
And I said, put that down and let's have a talk. You refused. That's when I asked you to leave. So let's leave that, because I'm not going to take this against you. You know why? Because you raise a very important issue. You raise a very important issue, and I'm glad you raised it, because I want to talk about it. You raise a very important issue and a very serious issue. This issue, particularly the element of racial profiling. This issue has been identified for a long time as a serious issue. On a personal level, I understand it, and once in a while, I'm reminded of it at a personal level. You don't need to go very far. You have to think of my ethnic and religious background and what people of my type have seen since 9/11. I'm not making comparisons. I'm not making equivalency, because it does not go as far as the history you're referring to. It is deep, it is serious, and it is real. And nobody can sympathize from outside that particular group more than I think I can. So let me establish that very clearly. Second is that this university, you ask for apology, the university never, ever, never an official of the university, otherwise I would have dealt with it myself, never, ever an official of this university representing this university accepted an issue other than total and absolute inclusivity. York University is part of a broader community. You ask about the definition. First of all, you should go back to what I said, because I chose my words carefully. I talked about community, not only students, staff, and faculty, but all the people who deal with this, all our encounters, and all our external community. We are part, York University is part of a broader community. Geographically, this community are part of York, has been part of York from the day York was created until now. So this issue of creating a barrier between York and the community around York is totally unacceptable. It's totally foreign to my way of thinking. York has been involved with the local community, and when I arrived, we created an engagement plan, and we created the TD, what's it called on? They've been on top of it. The York TD Engagement Office, and so on.
York, yeah.
As a result of what happened, and some of the emails and messages I've been getting about the latest events, We have reached out also to the community, where I am planning to meet with leaders in the community to try and see ways to make sure that it is clear to everybody that we are part of a broader community. Now, that said, we have also a practical problem. Mr. Brewer has some data about so-called people from within York and people from outside York. And I don't know if somebody commits a crime at York property who's from outside York, we don't even have data about where they come from. I mean, with the current communication, they can come from anywhere. The fact of the matter is the general area around us is part of York, and we are part of them. Now, York is growing. York is no longer the small place that used to be. So there are some practical issues that we have to deal with. York has become a large place. We are almost a city. We are bigger than many of the towns in Ontario. We have more than 60,000 people. So having the police here should not surprise anybody in general, irrespective of number of incidents, given the fact that we have chosen to have a different type of policing. More than 50% of Canadian universities have the security forces licensed as constable status. They function like police. We do not. We chose not to, even though we have gone a further step lately by giving them some tools and ability to do things like citizen arrest and have some equipment and so on. Yet, they do not come to the level of police. As a small city, we will always need some police presence. The issue is that we have this police presence, particularly, think of it this way, when the subway come here, now the so-called community is extended to anywhere in the city. People can come in and out and so on and so forth. So the police will be here. Some of our roads are public roads anyway. So the police is here whether we like it or not. And the police part of society as well. So what do we have to do? We have to find a compromise between totally managing our own affairs as a community the way we did in the old days, and the other extreme that worries you and worries me, which will become almost like a police state. Where's the balance? I don't know where the balance is, but we have to have a cooperative relationship with the police because they are also part of the community. Police, we will learn from the police, they will learn from us, they will learn by also being in the university because, as I said, it's a dynamic process. Work with police, they are part of the community, work with them and make sure that we have an understanding of how it evolves. Where do we draw the line? I don't have a magic answer. You may, in your justified concern, think you have the answer, but the truth is that the answer isn't clear. And I'm giving you my honest opinion. The answer is not clear. Where's the compromise? Where's the middle of the road? And I think to get there, we have to have a discussion. We have to have a rational discussion. We have to learn from other communities. And I believe that a great place for that discussion, and we'll ask now, John, with all due respect, that the Community Safety Council, having representation from all the groups, including the external community, will have a discussion, a serious discussion about this very subject that you raised. So on one hand, never mind the disagreement we had at my office, forget about that on a personal level. I'm happy to engage you. I'm happy that we get engaged on the discussion. There's no need to put a camera in my face, but I'm happy to have the discussion. I think the discussion should be taken to the council to have some discussion about the subject, and hopefully will create an approach for us that we can benefit from, and our partners and our collaborators in the police force also can learn from.
Okay, it's clear to me that on every individual item, we are going to have to follow up because there are clearly many people who want to speak. So I want to just for a moment go, just in fairness to those who, because they're at their offices, are unable to come today, just to go for a moment to a question that was raised by a student, Stephanie, who wasn't able to attend through the web, who asks, as a commuter, I have noticed that security stays centralized around Berry Hall. What improvements can be made to ensure that those who do not park near Berry Hall also have access to the same service? Gary?
Maybe I'll just take that, Rhonda, and just note that we continually review and monitor the security patrols on campus. We try to allocate our security officials in response to the needs of the community. And I think over the past while, for example, we had a series of laptop thefts in the Scott Library. As a result of the significant increase in patrols in that area, we have reduced those laptop thefts to zero. So I think this is perhaps one, Rhonda, just as you said, we can take back, and I've got Rob Kilfoyle here who's taken note of that. And again, as we continually review our security patrols, take note of this suggestion.
Okay, Yvette, I think we had a gentleman here in, yes.
I'm Michael Gregg, I'm from anthropology. I'm wondering if there's anything we can learn from other institutions. I lived in Philadelphia. I was at the University of Pennsylvania. I lived in West Philly. When I walked home every night, there were at least 10 security people on every corner, and these were not police officers. These were people that were hired by both the community and the university to act as guardians of the safety of everybody in that community. And I'm wondering if and they had very high profiles. They were always dressed in yellow jackets, so you could identify them. And I'm actually going to put this to the sergeant here. Is there anything that you could envision as far as community policing that goes beyond York University?
In regards to the community policing, I know that I run the community response office, and as a result of complaints that come in, I direct my officers accordingly as to times, locations where incidents are occurring. I can tell you that I've been invited by the university to have my officers freely ride through here on bikes. You've probably noticed that the bike officers are through here, and foot patrol officers. I can tell you that I run free patrols. They have to do it through their duties to come up here through days and evenings in order to assist with the safety up here.
Okay, there is a young woman right at the back with a green top on, a black sweater.
Hi, my name is Victoria. I'm a staff and volunteer at the Ontario Public Interest Research Group, OPIRG at York. I would like to comment on a few things that have already been said and then ask a question about them. So in terms of the things that have been happening recently on campus, there's robberies, there's sexual assaults, there's a whole slew of things, and these have been happening for years and years. I've been here since 2005, and things have happened all throughout this time. My question in regards to this is, why now are we bringing in so many more police officers right now after a week's worth of robberies and different things that happened? There's been a slew of sexual assaults that have happened recently in the past few years, and right now we're bringing in all this reinforcements, and I recognize that there's been MetTrack safety reports and all of these kind of things, but the root question I would like to ask is, why are we bringing in security, which is an after effect? It's something that can only help us after something's already happened, and really I would say that that doesn't actually help. It's more of a thing that's put there as just a safety precaution, perhaps. But why are we not talking about the root issues of why some of these things might be happening? Why are we not addressing issues around patriarchy, which is a key thing that happens, and sexual assaults are committed because people are patriarchal. People dominate over top of other people. Why are we not talking about racial profiling? Why are we not talking about those things? Why is the university not having open forums on those issues, bringing up issues of poverty, which puts people into places where maybe they need to commit a robbery to live? Why is the university not bringing up those issues as opposed to bringing in more security, policing students, and by policing now, racial profiling, which is a discriminatory act? Why are those things not happening?
Gary?
I can maybe pick up a couple of aspects of the question. With respect to the question about why are more police on campus now, and it's after the fact. I think it's fair to say, certainly in the 10 years that I've been in my current role, Toronto Police Services have been on this campus. They have regularly been asked onto the campus to help deal with safety issues on campus, and not just in an after the fact, but rather in a preventive mode, in an anticipation of a potential for concerns to be occurring on campus. In some cases, they're part of the regular patrols that Toronto Police Services staff for, and we are part of their district. In some cases, we actually have paid duty police officers on this campus, particularly where we have situations that we feel it is helpful to have them here to help create amongst the broader community a feeling of safety on campus. And I realize and I recognize that for some, this is not perhaps, in their view, the best way to do it. But in trying to balance the needs and the asks of all of our community members, including students, including parents, who are asking, why don't you have more police on campus all the time? We are always trying to strike an appropriate balance. So I don't think it's just now that we have police on campus and just in response to this circumstance. In terms of the other aspect of the question, there's perhaps other panelists who might want to take that on, but I will just revisit the comments that I made in my introductory remarks around the implementation of the METRAC safety audit recommendations. As I said, a number of our areas, as I highlighted, are about those physical things, lighting, security officials, equipment, and so forth, but a great deal of effort has been dedicated by the audit implementation, the Safety Audit Implementation Committee and the Community Safety Council with whom we work to focus on those societal issues. We are looking through programs that have been put together by our Center for Human Rights to actually try to get at some of those root causes. And in fact, blend the two. Every one of our security officials has undergone and will continue to undergo diversity training. In fact, our entire campus services and business operations folks will be going through that training if they haven't already done so. So the intent is to look at this as a multifaceted problem and make sure we deal with both of those elements.
Okay, I do have about 4 people that I've got on my list, so you are going to be able to speak. I just want to say one comment about that. You know, York University probably is one of the leading universities in Ontario that takes a leadership role on matters in academic curriculum, on inclusivity and diversity. We do have forum on homelessness and on poverty and on patriarchy and gender discrimination and racial profiling. We do incredibly well. Does that mean that there is not more to be done? Probably not. But I would not want people to think that the approach that we take at this university is simply about a reactive mode. We, as you know, as scholars, we all understand that we have to get at the root cause of aggression. But nevertheless, when aggression occurs, we still have to respond. You can't just do one without the other.
Rhonda,
yes.
Can I
Go
just,
ahead.
okay. Thanks for those who've spoken so far. I just wanted to address something that I've noticed. I think it's important to have a sense of security through having security officers and police officers, but not everybody feels safe with police officers around. I want to acknowledge that in the room. Not everybody feels safe having tons of security officers around this university. And I think that one thing that needs to be addressed is the culture of the university. So we can talk as much as we want about having security officers who can use batons, who can do citizens arrests. That's fine, but why aren't we talking about the culture of this university? So one of the recommendations for METRAC was to address educating our student populace about equity and women's studies issues. So for example, feminism, which is combating misogyny, which is linked to why many women on this campus and trans women are being attacked. So why are we not moving forward with having a mandatory course for students to address some of the concerns that were brought up by one of our students who is misrepresenting the Jane and Finch area? Why aren't we having courses so he can sit in a room and be a little bit more educated about a surrounding community? So why aren't we talking about the culture of this university? Because culture changes things, and as an educational institution, we should be the leaders in that. Not the leaders in having so many security officers, but the leaders in changing the culture of this university and this community. And maybe having more of these forums where people from Jane and Finch, so for example, Jane and Finch Action Against Poverty representatives are here at this panel. I shouldn't be on this panel. There should be people who are a bit more informed about this issue on this panel. Why were they invited? So maybe a little bit more of that conversation could be had to address these issues.
I think there's a really good suggestion in there around a potential future conference. I'm going to just go now to a few other questions. I've got you, okay? I'm going to give you a chance. But I'm also trying to be respectful of the people who are calling in. So there are a whole group of questions that have been raised. I think for expedient purposes, I might just read a few of them because they all come with very specific suggestions. So is there the potential for increased security personnel on campus? It's a really interesting, challenge we have, and how people see that they should be approaching our challenges. What plan does the university have in place to achieve a higher level of security on campus? Can you please make available more Go Safe volunteers, especially for disabled students? Is there something being developed to directly and immediately alert staff to emergency situations on campus? How are staff hearing about it? And would it be possible to include more precise descriptions of the locations of the incidences in the bulletin? That's from Peter, another staff person. So these are some of the issues from students and staff that are very specific recommendations. Gary, do you maybe want to start with that?
Actually, they're covering quite a range of aspects of the issue. I think, the first couple with respect to increasing the number of security personnel, and I think given the exchange that we've just had, clearly this is an issue that isn't as straightforward as was noted by one of the panelists, and certainly in my comments. I think that really was the intent of what I was trying to say. Some see more and more security as the appropriate path. And again, we recognize that for others that is not the answer for a couple of reasons that were already noted. One, they don't feel safe in the presence of security or police, and two, they would rather see that investment in resources going somewhere else. So this is the kind of diversity of view that we see across the campus. So certainly in my comments, you heard that we did make investments in additional security officials. We currently have now just under 80 in total in our security staff, a total budget of $10 million, which is a substantial investment. So I think going forward, we will continue to have to balance where we put our money in order to best respond to the safety needs of our community. And I mean that in the broadest sense, all members of the community. With respect to the Go Safe service, we have continued to make investments both in the campus shuttle and the Go Safe. This is an area where I think we are monitoring right now our statistics. In fact, as I said in my comments, this first 6 months of this year have doubled the demand. So I think as we track those statistics, we would expect that there could be opportunities for more investments in order to expand that. To me, in this particular case, Go Safe, it's a measure of success when we start seeing the numbers spike like that. We saw the same thing with our campus shuttle into the village last year, and as a result made a significant investment and expanded the service there. Again, working in consultation with leaders across the campus, including student leaders, to say what is it that students would be looking for. The final area about the security bulletins, this is exactly the kind of ongoing dialogue that we have. And as the president noted, it's a dynamic circumstance. We learn from each and every circumstance. What did we do? What worked well? What didn't work well? What do we need to do better? And I think this is the kind of forum where we can hear from our broad community about what we need to be mindful of in drafting those bulletins. So I think that one will take away.
Okay, there is someone who was right at the very back. I know there's a tendency to pick from people in the front, but I just want to try to give the back room an opportunity to.
Hi, I'm a concerned parent, and I just wanted to point out an observation of my daughter. The security that's out there, I personally think it's a great thing. I like it visible. However, having 2 or 3 together, even for their own sake, is a great thing. But when you see it almost as a socializing, that to me defeats the purpose of having 3 security people wandering the grounds. So I would just like whoever's in charge of them to just remind them that as they're walking through, have your eyes looking all over as parents also driving in and dropping off kids, instead of just look a little further beyond in little corners. Keep your eyes open as a community again, and maybe we can help in that regard. Thank you.
Okay, there was a very patient young woman right here in a striped top who's had her hand up from the beginning. So I'm going to go to her next.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind and patient moderation with some questions. I'm a grad student and I live in Assiniboine Road apartment buildings. I have 2 very brief practical questions. The first is whether there's been any looking at developing a York security app for smartphones. I know so many students carry them around, and if there could just be a very simple thing that maybe 1 button calls police, 1 button has an alarm go off, that'd be really nice. Living on campus and being a woman, and it's just, a simple thing. The other thing, living in Assiniboine Road, we have a major problem in our apartment building. There's a sign at the front that says, "Don't open the door for strangers," but that rule is completely ignored. And if you try to say, "I'm sorry, I can't let you in, I don't know if you live here," you're treated like you're just a terrible person. So, I've been called a racist for doing this, and it's ridiculous. And security guards, they'll come by and tell you, well, you can't let people in, but there's a culture where that is not allowed. So I'm wondering what we can do to change this, if there's maybe, a potential of having more security guards at the building. I know just a couple of days ago in the building where I live, there was someone who wasn't supposed to be in there, and the security guards were nice enough to actually go around and tell us to lock our doors, which was really appreciated. But if there can be some kind of further regulation to prevent this from happening, because right now and you can't just convince people, you can't just tell them that this is a thing to do and they're going to stop. So if there's some kind of practical measure that can be put in place there. Thank you.
Comments on that?
I think I can give a fairly quick answer to your first suggestion. We are actually looking at that kind of a mobile app. I can't tell you the exact date, but that is something that's actively being looked at right now. On the second question, I think that's one that we'll note. And certainly in the undergraduate buildings, the Residence Watch program actually has people there at the door, so we don't have the same issue we recognize with the graduate apartments, that we don't have that. But I think we'll take back your suggestion and reflect on that. Thank you.
So I've had 3 hands up for a long time. The gentleman in the yellow shirt, the gentleman with the red band, and the young woman over here on the side. So, and then I'll go to you, okay? Yes, okay, thank you, sorry.
Okay, first of all, thank you very much for organizing this town hall meeting. It is desperately needed at a time when so much is lacking in our community. Everything from a lacking in morals for those who commit the crimes.
I'm sorry, could I ask you to speak up?
Everything from a lack of morals for those who are committing the crimes, and a lack of safety for the student. We need in our community York security guards to be more prominent on campus, not the Toronto Police. We pay York security with our tuition fees. We need to get the value for our money. The York security knows or ought to know this campus inside and out. They should be better equipped in handling security concerns. Hardly ever do I see a member of York security in their red uniform on campus. We need them front and center as familiar, reliable, and friendly faces on campus. They should actually be out at the start of every school year, going to different classes and conducting workshops on safety, kind of like how librarians conduct how-to research lessons, workshops for first-year students. I find it unfortunate that representatives of York Security are conspicuously missing from the panel today. It's fantastic that members of York's administration are here, but there is a lacking on the panel in more than one way. Frankly, I'd rather have York security here than the Toronto Police. I think many of the issues York faces something that has to be cleaned in-house, so to speak. We need to gather together as a York family, and I use that term deliberately because we need to start behaving like a family and look out for one another. It baffles me that a sexual assault can occur in heavily trafficked areas on campus like at Very Hall. So there needs to be a change in culture at York. Also, let's not forget that it was just last year that our Toronto Police Constable called victims of sexual assaults and rapes sluts. Constable Michael Serengeti was at York just last year at another town hall meeting where he said, and he was quoted to have said, "You know, I think we're beating around the bush here. I've been told I'm not supposed to say this, however, women should avoid dressing like sluts in order not to be victimized." This is an absolutely disgusting comment from a Toronto police officer. As you can imagine, people are outraged by this comment. It actually sparked a worldwide protest, believe it or not, and rightfully so. It took the officer 25 days to issue what some would call an apology, claiming that his comment was poorly thought out. But I beg to differ. I think he was being more honest and candid to a very small gathering at York town hall meeting than he was in that formulated apology released to the media. When that officer said, "I have been told I'm not supposed to say this," it is blatantly obvious that what he said was that disgusting comment that he said, and he said it on more than one occasion around his colleagues, but he was advised not to utter it with the general public. In a Toronto Star article about this incident, a woman who worked closely with the Toronto Police quoted to have said, "In 2007, I was paid by the Toronto Police Services Board to monitor their sexual assault training for 2 weeks, and the course is riddled with sexist and racist myths and attitudes about rape." This, of course, is deeply disturbing, especially considering that one of the proposals to make the campus safer is to have permanent police presence. I, for one, do not want to see this happen. In the book, The Shock Doctrine by Naomi Klein, she argues that when a society experiences shock, when something terrible happens, there's a widespread desire for a rapid and bold response to the problem, which gives unscrupulous actors to implement unpopular ideas that would have been unacceptable if people weren't in a state of shock and fear. There needs to be a balanced approach at York. We neither want too little to be done, nor do we want our campus turned into a mini police state with checkpoints everywhere. Being more police does not automatically mean greater protection, especially for women and racialized members of our community.
That's some very good comments. Are there any comments from the panel? Gary?
Again, I think there's obviously a range of comments. Maybe just to clarify a couple of things. In terms of the representation of York Security, it perhaps isn't clear from my title, but actually York Security ultimately reports to me, so the panel really does comprise, somebody who's ultimately accountable for security. And as well as I look around the room, I can see just within eye distance, the Director of Security Services, Rob Kilfoyle. I see Dana at the back of the room standing by the door. I see Dragon standing by the wall. So just at a glance, there is representation here from security, because I think our security staff deeply care about safety on this campus. That said, I appreciate the comments that you made, and we've talked about them already, about the balance between security officials and getting at those deeper issues, the societal issues. So I won't comment further. I just wanted you to know that actually our security folks do care. They are here and they are listening.
Okay, the next one I had was the gentleman here, and then the young woman on the side here.
Hi.
Sorry, I don't mean to keep on referring to you as young or old. I have to drop
Hello?
that. Sorry.
Hi, I want to thank everybody for coming out, and I want to thank you for giving your time from your day. Yesterday, me and a friend of mine named Naveed, we organized a rally which over 300 students came by, and they had a list of suggestions that were discussed earlier, but two of the suggestions that haven't been discussed is key card access to populated area, such as the university, Ryerson University, and those in the United States that they use it, and also better lighting condition and specifically blue lights that have easier access to to security. So could you comment on that, please?
I can speak, and I think Safia also has comments. In terms of the blue lighting program, again, in my comments, we have made a significant investment this fall, but it doesn't end there. And so to the extent that there's any specific areas or suggestions you have, I think you can feed those directly to my office or working through the Community Safety Council if you're part of that forum. Either way, any suggestions we have would be gratefully received. The issue of access control is the one piece that you also mentioned. I think this is another area that we are looking at. We currently have work going on right now to look at how we might improve the security of access to our buildings, not using keys rather, but some kind of electronic card access. It's in the early stages. We'll have, I think, a request for proposals going out by the middle of December. Following the receipt of results from that, we will look at an assessment of what it will cost, what it will take, and come up with proposals likely in the spring. I think the recognition here, of course, is that it will cost a lot of money, which we have to look at. And similar to, I think, many of the issues that we've been talking about today, there will not be a common view about access control on this campus. Universities, in the minds of many, are open, accessible spaces. And so we have to be very, very careful about how we go about putting in more restricted access to our buildings on this campus. So we want to look at it, we want to study it, we will need to have a dialogue with our community. But one piece that we will have to be careful of, that the President has already talked about, is with the subway coming a few years hence, that could significantly change the way in which we have to think about our campus. So it really is in anticipation of that we're doing that work. I think Safia as well had a comment.
I just wanted to speak in terms of what the YFS is working on too. Like, definitely we've heard that lighting is a concern, and we know that walking around there are many areas that lighting could be improved on. And I think that's been a constant, it's been constantly pushed forward to the administration, certainly on behalf of the YFS as well. There have been some improvements, but obviously we can move forward with continuing to address some of the lighting concerns on campus. With key cards, I think a concern I just wanted to bring up, I mean, there is potential for logistical concerns when we have daytime, during the day there are so many people accessing buildings that might present logistical concerns as well. Perhaps a conversation about late at night, like access to buildings, might be investigated. But I think we should also remember what the purpose and aim of that would be. You know, if this is to protect us from the outside, from those who may not be a student, like what is that really the danger? You know, we're getting into a territory where we're othering the surrounding areas. I think that's something that we should keep in mind when we're thinking of those tactics and what the actual aim is with those tactics. And I just wanted to address like a previous comment as well. I think dialogue is one of the most important things we can be doing. There are many societal systemic issues involved in violence, and to deal with that security in the physical space is definitely an important conversation, definitely something that we should be doing. But we also need to remember that in order for anything to change, we need to get to the root causes of violence. We need to talk about misogyny, racism, poverty, how these things contribute to violence, and how we can combat these in order to prevent these things before they're happening, so that we don't need as much security and like reactionary measures, and so that we can take a more proactive stance.
Sorry, Rhonda, sorry, can I just offer just a couple of other comments? So my name is Janet, and my job on campus is really focused on student experience and academic quality and student success. And I think everybody would agree that security, safety and security is a requisite to that. I am also privileged to serve as an interface in many instances between students and very often parents. So I take a lot of the calls that come in, and I'm happy to do that. There have been a lot of calls. In response to Kazra's comments, what I really wanted to just recognize is that student leaders have really been leading on this issue. Undergraduate and graduate students have really been leading, and I've been a staff member on campus for a long time. I work with many faculty members on campus. We are all invested in this issue. It impacts all of us. But I did want to recognize that we had a group of student leaders organize a rally yesterday, and the dialogue was constructive and positive, and the outcomes have been furthered and will be presented and will be considered. But I think it sets a tremendous example, and I think it's indicative of what our student community, as a piece of as an important sub-community, is bringing to the table on this. So I wanted to recognize Kazra and Naveed for their leadership yesterday. It was great.
Thank you. Finally getting to me. Hello, everyone. My name is Alexandra Williams. I'm the president of York University's Black Students Alliance. And first and foremost, I want to thank everyone for being here, because even though our ideologies may differ, it shows that we're united in making sure that York is a safe campus for everyone. So I want to thank everyone for being here. And with that being said, now that I got that out the way, I've noticed that there has been a strong presence of police on campus, and I understand the immediate response for the fact that crime has increased over the past week. I'm not one to say that the descriptions in the security bulletins identify the people as black males. So in that instance, I understand that there can be some truth to the next statement that I'm about to make. But what upsets me is when I'm walking through my campus and I see police officers carding marginalized communities that don't fit the descriptions. When they're going up to young black men who are no taller than 5'4", 5'3", and asking them to empty their pockets and show them that identification because they don't feel like they belong here under the pretext that they look too young to be on campus. That's when I start to have a problem, because that doesn't make me feel safe as a black woman, as a member of the black community, because it already signifies a target, someone that we need to look at and say that they are the enemy, they are the ones that are causing crime, which is not the case. As a woman, my next point, this is just a distraction for the fact that rape culture is alive and well on York's campuses. The common enemy isn't the fact that there are black men coming in and doing these assaults and doing these rapes. It's the fact that we don't teach, don't rape, don't assault. When I look at these security bulletins, this is a suggestion, there is never a word in it that says, please do not harm our women, do not harm our men, do not harm our trans, do not harm our gays, our bis, or anything. It's please make sure that you're safe. Please make sure you you find a buddy. There's nothing that says that this is wrong. Period. And so my question to all of you is, why is it that in order for us to master the real issue, we have to seek a common enemy, which is the black man? I totally understand if you are trying to make the campus safer, but I don't agree when my people are being segregated against, where other marginalized communities are being segregated against. Just yesterday, I had a police officer tell me that it's okay that he's doing his job and he's not just targeting black men, he's targeting brown men too. Like, that makes it okay. Right? This is real life. So, as a woman, I feel like there has to be a discussion in terms of our language, how we write these bulletins, how we make it seem that the victims are to be blamed, that we are the ones that have brought this upon ourselves, that if we don't catch the go safe, if we don't have a body system, that somehow it's our fault, that our bodies have been objectified and been taken against, and that's wrong. So I want to put out here today to everyone on the board, and I thank you all for being here, but I want to put out there today that there has to be a strong talk about language, because it's starting to perpetuate this idea that it's the victim's fault, and that we have to really, really look, all of us have to look at who are we claiming as the enemy. Is it the person that we see in the description, or is the mental person that's constantly in our mind telling us it's the woman's fault?
so I don't want to miss this opportunity to reiterate that no means no. And I think you've made some really good points. It's obviously a complicated situation. I don't know if Noelle is here. The other Noelle. Noelle, I know you've really tried to take some steps around delivering that message on campus. Do you want to add anything in response?
I definitely need a mic. So about sexual harassment, and this extends to other issues. First, on behalf of the wider York community, I really want to praise the brave survivors that have come forward this year and reported the incidents of sexual harassment on our campuses. Sorry. Please. While the number of reported incidents have increased, and it's troubling, it's also a reflection of the increased comfort that our survivors are now demonstrating in coming forward. Such an increase in reported incidents is an expected outcome of strong educational and awareness-raising efforts on the part of York. As with all other human rights concerns, knowledge of our rights and the support systems in place help our community members feel more comfortable in reporting concerns and incidents of discrimination and harassment. This is actually a good thing, as the alternative is to have our community members feel like nothing will be done and no one cares, so they don't report. That's unacceptable. We really care and want to hear about every incident so that we can better educate and prevent harassment and discrimination on our campus. The university has committed additional resources, as was mentioned by Vice President Brewer, towards raising awareness about the prevalence of sexual harassment assaults. And one new resource is, as was mentioned earlier, the new Harassment Prevention Education Advisor in our office. Our community needs to know what is already in place and encouraged to take action where appropriate to help prevent sexual harassments and assaults, with a view to creating a sense of safety and the knowledge that we as community members, and that's the wider community membership, have a vested interest in looking out for each other. Make no mistake, there'll be an increase in the number of reported incidents of assaults, and we honor and encourage the brave survivors who continue to come forward. And as we know, as we try to get to the depth of the real extent and pervasiveness surrounding this troubling trend, we can more effectively take action. So it's really important for us to know and to feel comforted that while there's an increase in the numbers, that's in part a reflection of the increased awareness, the increased education and training that's happening. People are feeling like we are going to be heard. There's a place to go, and that's really a good thing. Finally, I just want to emphasize that the Center for Human Rights is actually one of the places to come to raise these issues so that we can then tabulate and do more education or more specific education around the kinds of incidents that are happening on campus. And that includes, questions and concerns about racial profiling and issues, of course, around sexual harassment and other harassment and discrimination. So our office welcomes those complaints and concerns, and we will do our best to address them on an individual basis as well as on the systemic way through education and preventative measures. So I hope that sort of answers it.
Thank you.
I feel like I really appreciate what the gentleman just had to say, but I really want to hear what the police officer has to say about the fact that there are officers on campus who are targeting Black men and marginalized community. I really want to hear your response to that, as in terms of why is this happening, because it's
I was going to go to the panel.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so, gentlemen.
First of all, I wasn't aware of this incident here that you're speaking of recently on the campus.
It's not just one, I have many. I
Okay.
can tell you many, many more.
Exactly. I wasn't aware of these recent ones, sorry. I know that the chief and the Toronto Police Service Board is now reviewing the issue of carding, and that's before the board and the command right now, so I can't comment on that. But in regards to the instance, if you want to talk to me afterwards, I'll gladly take the information you have and go see what I can find out about it.
But I feel like it's important for everyone here to hear your opinion on it now. I'd like everyone to hear it.
My comment in regards to carding?
or carding of black men or marginalized communities on campus. How do you feel about that? How do you feel
I have
about
no
that?
comment on it right now.
So do you think it's wrong or do you think it's right?
I just have no comment on it. I know we've used the cards in the past for investigative purposes and leading to investigations, but that's as far as I'm going to go on it.
Do you have anything to say?
No.
Well, yeah, I'll just step in here just for a second. I'm in charge of all the investigative offices in the division. I'm not the lead investigator for the city, just for 31 divisions. So we have a number of crimes that happen throughout 31 division. I can tell you that we've been called into York University 1,328 times this year, since January 1st to November 24th, and out of that time period, we've taken approximately 480 occurrences for various things, not all crimes. When our officers are in here, they're usually in here, the uniform officers, because they're invited. We do have a good handle on the crimes that are happening in here. We are not always targeting, you may think that we're targeting black marginalized people, but we're looking for suspects for all kinds of for crimes in here, and I would agree with you that we shouldn't be targeting black marginalized. That's goes without saying.
Okay, but I myself, I was watching some of the officers yesterday. I was watching some of the officers yesterday, me and a couple of other people that are in the room right now, and we witnessed for ourselves the constant carding and identification of black men and marginalized communities. We saw it. I actually have one here that was asked to empty his pockets in front of Very Hall yesterday. So, and I understand you're saying that you were hired by the university, so I'm going to turn that over to the president and ask him, how does he feel that this is being implemented on your campus? That what you're doing that's supposed to make us feel safe is actually dividing us now. What is your response to that?
After I get the president's response, look, this is clearly a passionate issue that deserves extended discussion. But at the same time, we made a commitment that we were going to let everybody speak. We can't let ourselves get into a situation where we start to get into a back and forth debate. Okay. All right? So I'm going to allow the president, because he is the president, to respond.
Can I wait, because I like to say something at the end as a result of all the things that are coming my way.
All right, so, and I also want to try to sum up some of the really important messages that we need to take away that we've heard. But just for a moment, I want to go back to the people who are submitting questions through the web, whatever. Sorry. We've got Amy from staff, Andrea as a student, and Alicia as staff. The questions are somewhat similar. There's obviously a concern on campus about what are considered to be the more remote areas of campus. So one refers to the shuttle route on the northern part of campus. One refers to what the university is doing in terms of security in remote areas. Another, the Alicia and staff asked specifically whether or not security in a blue phone could be added to the Viva YRT bus area. So these all seem to be around more remote areas, and I'm wondering if we could respond to that concern.
I can maybe take that one, Rhonda, and certainly, as I've said earlier, obviously it's a large campus. We have a finite number of security officials, and we have to allocate our patrols as best we can. We continue, as I say, to review our patrols, and I'm looking at Rob, and obviously we'll take note of that. In particular, around the adding a blue phone to the Viva bus route, we've taken that one down as well, and we'll look into putting one in there.
Okay. I think this gentleman, if I remember correctly, had his hand up a long time ago, and I see a couple of other hands, so I'll go to him first.
Yeah, my name is Sunny Day. I'm co-chair of the USA Health and Safety Committee, and I'm also a certified worker member on the USA Joint Health and Safety Committee, and I'm a member of the USA Executive Board. I'd just like to say I'm pleased to see that safety is getting a lot of concern from the upper levels of management at York. But I'm also disappointed that the frontline staff at this university aren't really represented here, and the unions that represent those workers. You know, these workers face a lot of the brunt of abuse and harassment, and I think it's important to have their voices heard as well. The specific question I had was in relation to Bill 168. I don't know if people know, but every department on campus was required to do a violence risk assessment because of Bill 168. And I think there's a perception that nothing really happened with these. They were kind of filed away in a drawer. I'm at least not aware of any changes that have been made because of these violence assessments, and I'm not aware of any updates that have happened after these violence assessments. So I'd want to know what's going on with that, and what the employer is doing to protect the safety of workers at the campus, as well as students.
Barry, I don't know whether or not you want to talk about your knowledge, or Harriet, about where we are with Bill 168. I can say that there was an entire protocol that was developed in response to Bill 168, and that if we've got a difficulty and that people are not being informed about what is happening around that, then we need to do a better communication job. Interestingly, I've got another question from a staff person, Steve, that says, what community-wide communications are planned to allow for our university to express its shared concern and its shared commitment to safety and security? So there's obviously a communication piece that we need to be thinking about here. I don't know whether or not any of the names that I called on want to add anything, or the people up here, about just around communication. Barry? Barry Miller is Executive Director of Faculty Relations.
Yeah, not to make much more of a point, other than obviously we'll have to look at making sure that we do a better job, or at least get communication out about what has happened with the safety audits. Certainly the way the program is designed to run, it undergoes an annual review, and to the extent that there are changes or concerns, the purpose is to look at ways of constantly strengthening the program. The only other thing I will say is that we're also looking to reach out and have, excuse me, with some of the union heads anyway, but across the board, to really follow up with discussions with them as well about, really about the safety issues and how we would relate that to the health and safety committees and the work that they do.
Okay, there's a young woman right here in the red scarf. Not you? Sorry? The girl in the green hat? Okay.
Hi, I just wanted to make a practical suggestion. She kind of went on it before she said about the app. I don't know if you were looking into that, but a quick suggestion might be a forum that everyone who has the app can talk about. So if everyone is talking about, though it might have problems on its own, but if everyone is aware and alert and everyone is talking about if they see suspicious behavior, regardless of who it's coming from, more people are aware, so I don't get an email the next day where it's like too little too late, or I should have probably not been there. So I think it'd be cool if we know while it's happening, like a live feed, kind of like an online community watch, or on hand, I guess. And also a quick question to the Safety Council. I'd like to know how come I didn't really know about you till recent events, and what you're doing to inform students of your presence on campus and how we can reach out to you. Thank you.
Could I ask the Safety Council members, the co-chairs, to maybe respond to the latter part of that?
Actually, we were in the process of creating a safety awareness communication campaign that was going to, it was going to start either late January, early February. That was the time frame that we were actually going to work on that. We've got a large number of people on that committee, and if you go to the website, you'll see very wide representation, and we are hoping that by having those members there, that they help connect us to you. Do you want to say?
Yeah. And we have a website that's available as well. If you go and to the CSC Community Safety Council website, you can find out all our notes and minutes that are up there, as well as our agenda items, as well as the representatives. And many of them started, if you were here in the beginning, stood up, and there are other representatives. We have about 55 members that you can also go to speak to that are from a variety of parts of the campus, from unions and from faculties to students. So it's a very diverse group of individuals.
We did identify communication, in fact, as one of our weaknesses and something that we do need to improve.
There was
Ron, sorry, Ron, if I could just add.
I'm sorry, Gary.
In terms of this specific suggestion that was made about how we could have a much more active engagement on safety issues. In fact, building on the work of the Community Safety Council, I think one of the initiatives that will be pursued is what's called an active bystander program. And the intent of that is very much to allow everybody in the community to, in a sense, participate in helping create a safer environment at the university. We're still in the process of developing that program. We've identified how we might roll that forward. In fact, I understand as well we'll be able to partner with another large university in the delivery of that training. And it'll be a bit of a cascading approach we use to make sure that we can have a maximum impact across the university. So I think you narrowly defined it, we've taken your suggestion, but more broadly, I think it's reflective of our desire to try to get all of us working and contributing to a safer environment.
Okay, I want to leave a few moments at the end to sum up, to see if we've heard you correctly, to try to identify the main themes. But there has been a young woman at the back who's been very patient, a gentleman over here, and another 2 women here. So I'm not sure we're going to be able to take many more than about 4 more speakers, but I'm going to start with the woman at the back.
Good afternoon. I am staff and I work here at York University, and my question was regarding communication. I believe it was, the question was already posed by a young woman closer to the front. My concern is this. There was a particular incident that happened right in the building where I worked, and it so happened that it was my other colleagues that kind of, we were asking each other what was going on. We noticed security in our building. We noticed a police officer, it looked like he was dusting for prints on one of the handlebars, only to realize the next day that we got the notice that there was a robbery in our building. This obviously concerns myself and also my coworkers as well, because we work there. We go through those doors all the time. And the notification came via management to staff. And what we need to do is create a system where it is sent directly to staff, not through management to staff, but directly to staff. Because we all have email accounts. Obviously, as employees, we all have employee numbers, so therefore there must be a record of each and every one staff member's email address on the system that bulletin can go through right away, not the next morning when we come in at 8:30 to realize that in our very own building where we work, there was this incident that could have happened to a student, but it could have happened to us. So we need to be informed. And my question is, another question that I have is this: I understand that there's protocol, that there is a system and way of doing things. I want to know, what is the turnaround time when an incident occurs that the community must be notified? And my suggestion would be, I understand that security has the designated area where, they are housed, but could they not create, like, say, kiosks in different centers of the university where you have 2 or 3 security guards? You have a central unit which they report to, but different designated areas where we can go, let's say, sharing within certain buildings, they have one designated spot, the next area has another designated spot. As it was commented, this is a huge university. It is quite large. So if we need to, let's say, maybe we cannot call, but we can run there
it's close enough for us to run there to get assistance rather than picking up the phone and call if we are in close proximity to that area. Thank you.
I feel stressed that there's more of you who want to speak than I'm going to be able to accommodate. I think this gentleman was next here.
Hi, I'm Sean Amanko, and I wanted to ask a quick question. Pardon if I represent any ignorance in this. I just wanted to know if there was any close ties between post-secondary and secondary education, because I feel that the universities, all universities, should have more of a close relationship with secondary institutions in order to draw more awareness of things that may happen on campus, not alone just what is provided on when you come to universities. And also, I would like to draw awareness to issues that occur within secondary institutions, primarily with disciplinary measures, because sending kids, because from what I see and growing up from the Jane and Finch area, I see a lot of youth from multiple backgrounds, like when they get suspended, they go out in the streets and they have nothing else to do because they're getting kicked out of school. The school shouldn't, if anything, if anything, like high awareness needs to be drawn to that issue, because secondary institutions should not be kicking kids out of school. Because when they're not at school and their parents are at work, what else are they going to get involved into, right? You know, we need to draw some awareness to that issue, and again, I would like to see if there's going to be some further improvement in order to, you know, have a stronger bond between secondary institutions.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to respond to that a little bit. So there's an organization on campus who's been here for 10 years. It's called the Winters Community Arts Club, and it provides free art. Yeah. It provides free art for youth in the area. So kids and youth who live on campus, but also in the surrounding community. And it provides free art and drama lessons. They're actually having an event tomorrow in the underground at 5:30. And it's amazing to see how many kids come out every year and come onto this campus and have an opportunity to meet with students, undergrad students who volunteer their time with these students for a full year. And to see what a great access point that is to our surrounding community. And that we should actually support a little bit more of those initiatives, and maybe that would help create a sense of connection, but also help educate the next generation of youth. You know, those are practical things that we could actually put our money towards that would actually maybe address some of the concerns that came up today from students who are feeling alienated at this university because of the color of their skin. And I think that we need to start addressing those issues, but putting money behind initiatives that are doing that work already. I know from the Faculty of Education, which is my program, they have satellite schools at Yorkgate Mall, and you know, just putting our money where our value systems are and figuring what that is, I think would be really helpful. So just wanted to say that that's happening.
On a very good news, just update. We've just agreed or just appointed a new vice provost academic, Alice Pitt, from the Faculty of Education. And we've agreed that two very important aspects of that portfolio are going to be around access and around community engagement to support programs like the Transition Year program, and the York University Toronto Dominion Community Engagement Center at Yorkgate, because we absolutely need a commitment to ensure that all eligible young people are able to make their way to university and have access to post-secondary education. I know a woman here who's been waiting such a long time in the red scarf.
Hi. Okay, so as a Frosh boss, you're required to take equity training for one of the days. And I was just wondering, is it possible to have that implemented into Frosh Week for incoming students who are not exposed to diversity from where they come from?
So just to be brief, the answer is yes, and that is the intent. Yeah.
I just want to say I totally support that. I think, as I briefly mentioned before, I think dialogue around some of these issues is hugely important. And I think that's what we should be promoting with all students, and to make sure, you know, I think that the equity-based course is another example of some initiative that was like moving towards that, and having these chances for dialogue is super important to addressing some of the issues around violence.
Okay, I think the woman there was next with her hand up. I'm going to go to her second, but I think she was first.
I have a very simple question about security cameras. Although we appreciate the increase of the services that you offered, but there are a lot of locations that are not able to be secured physically. So is there people monitoring the security cameras, that if they do see something that someone is not there, that they can call or page someone to go to that particular area if they see something happening and there's no security around?
Gary?
I'll answer that one briefly. We have over 600 cameras in various locations on the campus. Some of them are fixed, some of them are controllable, and we do have monitoring that is done in the security main office. And so obviously with 600 cameras, there's an awful lot of feeds. But we do have ongoing monitoring of those cameras, and those images are also recorded and retained should there be a need for them.
Live people in there watching?
Yes, there is. Yes,
okay.
we
I
actually.
know for instance, when there was the issues in the bathroom, a lot of the times that the monitors were being reviewed, the actual times that those things were happening, they weren't focused on the bathrooms, and they had to be reviewed, and it was very difficult to catch the person while he was going into the bathroom.
Yeah, as I say, with over 600 cameras, there's obviously a finite capacity to be able to have live monitoring of each and every single one of those feeds.
Okay, we had a woman right in the front here, and there's a gentleman in the green shirt who will be next, because I know he's had his hand up for a long time, but this woman right here, I think, was... Yes.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Sheila. I work for QP 3903, and in that capacity, I sit on the Community Safety Council, and for the last, I guess, year and a half or so, and it's on some of the related subcommittees. And one of the things that the METRAC report underscores is the need for integrated and coordinated programs, and that's something that's not easy to do. I understand that, but I do think it's important to express my educated opinion from being involved in that body, that I don't see that we're doing a lot of integrating and coordinating of programs, when I think that is something that's absolutely indispensable for the kind of systemic preventative focus that a lot of people here are raising today, that is fundamentally anti-racist, that is fundamentally anti-sexist, and gets at the core issues that from which all these assaults on campus arise. What I do see is a lot of focus, and rightfully so, to some degree, on physical security and increased money that York is putting into physical security. So we have that package of stuff we talk about at the CSC. And then lying right alongside it, we have the package of stuff that we can call education training, which that massive baton got handed to the Center for Human Rights, who doesn't have a staff of 12 or 15, but nonetheless, that baton's been passed to them as education is now some kind of panacea. And this active bystander stuff is now some other kind of panacea, where we're going to, I guess, train all kinds of students through, and to some degree, online training, not entirely, but to have these peer-to-peer, random peer-to-peer moments of social change. When the norm is still, the social norm is still a racist, misogynist environment, right? So as I'm saying, I see lots of activity. So I'm not dissing anybody in particular or anybody in particular's efforts. What I'm concerned about is the lack of real interconnection. And what I do notice also, I have to say, is a lot of people in positions of authority on that committee have no language to talk about these core systemic issues. We do not hear a lot of people in positions of authority say, talk about race, even be able to say people of color, racialized people, even talk about racism, can say misogyny, can say racialized sexual violence, can say racialized transphobia. We do not hear that on the committee, except from a small group from us. What we do hear instead is corporate speak, inclusivity, diversity, equity training, like you see more and more on the York website. So, and that to me is profoundly reflective of a lack of a real systemic preventative approach. And the final thing I'll say about it is that another piece that's really telling is this committee, we meet 3 to 4 times a year. And I'll tell you folks that the 10 minutes at the last meeting was spent saying, gee, do we really need to meet again? We have a meeting set for February 7th. Do we really need to meet again before then? Well, I guess it depends on what we need to get done. And it depends, you know, this is the kind of thing. We don't meet in the summer, even though we know there's spikes of sexual assaults in September and October. I believe 25% of the assaults that retrospectively over the last 7 years happened then. We don't even meet in the summer. So I've just brought up a few issues there that I hope us as a community who are now collaborating are going to try to figure out a way to do that really systemically and take the work that we've been delegated, those 55 of us who sit on this CSC, really seriously. Thank you.
Okay, I have challenging news, okay, because we only have 3 minutes left. And I think it's really important to try to give a bit of feedback to what we've heard so that people can understand that whether or not they feel their message has been heard. I know that there's a gentleman back there, there's a whole slew of young people over here, but I do want to just give you a couple of things as highlights here. One, if I don't get to you, okay, if I can't give an opportunity for everyone to speak, and if you have a question or an idea that you did not have a chance to share today, or that you felt that you didn't hear somebody else already say, could you please send that to safety@yorku.ca. Furthermore, if you want more information about the Committee on Safety, CSC, you can write to or email www.yorku.ca, just very straightforward, and then just /safety. So you have 2 opportunities to add further comments if you did not feel that you were heard today. I also want to very much thank the ASL interpreter and the closed captioning and all the staff who were helped today. I also frankly just want to thank the entire audience and the panel. I thought that people really listened to everyone today. You brought forward very thoughtful comments. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate that. Safety is obviously a very passionate concern to all of us, and we will only be successful if we look at both prevention and response, if we really think about what that means to look at prevention and to deal with the complexity of the issues that were raised, issues and factors that lead to violence or aggression in the first place, and then how you respond effectively. It means us working together as a community, not blaming, not finger pointing, but really thinking about that we share these concerns about safety, not just as with York as a city, because York, frankly, is larger than many cities. So we are a city in and of itself. But we share the same concerns with the families about safety that are in Jane Finch, that are in other communities, that are in the broader Black Creek area. And we need to work together. We need to reach out to each other and think about what are the best strategies that we want to have, the best package. Some really good ideas, additional ideas were made on what specific recommendations we could do regarding remote areas, regarding lighting. Those specific suggestions we can integrate into current plans. There were also some very good ideas about how you actually reach out to community leaders, both in the community and outside, to have conversations about those factors that actually contribute to violence in the first place. How do you actually prevent? Because actually a successful solution will really involve both of those types of strategies and coming together. It's also, frankly, thinking about each other. What can we each do while we're on campus to work together to look after one another? And so when you think of, there's multiple layers to creating a safe campus. I also want to just leave people with the reminder that relative to other universities in urban areas, we are no more at risk in terms of the rate of assault than other urban universities, okay? Crime, assault, these are issues that we're faced with in urban areas. We have a particular situation at York where, unlike other universities that are embedded in downtown cores, you know, we get a lot attributed to us, which frankly suggests that there is a higher incidence. Nevertheless, one assault is too many assaults. And we want to be sure that we're doing everything we can to maximize both prevention and response. So those are some of my comments. I'd like to turn it over to our president to give any final remarks that he would like to add.
Well, I guess you took some of my final comments. But let me have some just quick reflections. First of all, I am very, very pleased, and this is what York is all about. I'm very pleased with so many people coming forward. I'm so pleased to hear actually the diversity of opinion, the incredible diversity of opinion, and the issue of safety, as I said once before, at least once before in public, the issue of safety and security at York or in any place at this point in time is really, there are two sides to it. And therefore, the two sides create the diversity and sometimes apparent polarization. One is the long-term issue. There is absolutely no question, and it is totally recognized here by everybody, that issues of violence are issues that are broad societal issues. They come from certain unfortunate characteristics related to all the way from poverty, gender bias, certain groups trying to exercise power over others. This is a huge societal problem, and from that comes the issue of also racial profiling and so on. These are real issues, absolutely real issues, and they are, to deal with them, we have to understand that to deal with them, it is a real long-term struggle that we have to be at the leadership of as a university. And York has been on that side. York has been, in my opinion, a university that has advocated social justice and social responsibility and social change from the day it started. And in answer to some of the question raised, just have a look at the programs we have. Some of these programs, our commitment to social justice and equity is embedded in our academic programs and many of the ways we deal with issues. Is that enough? Obviously not enough, because it has been a long history of these problems, and they will continue with us. We have to deal with them in the classroom, in everything we do. So, and that is reflected in a strong sense of concern about things like racial profiling. And I support that 100%. I can say I can understand that, and we have to deal with this. On the other hand, there is the short term. We have suddenly an increase in incidents. We have to deal with them. How do you deal with them? You deal with them with the physical responses, because they are quantitative, they are easy to identify, and you go and try and raise the number of security, invest in cameras, and so on. We have been doing this as well. But one should go with the other. In the meantime, while I see people who advocate positions driven by the first or to the extreme, others also, on the other hand, advocate positions to the extreme in terms of put more cameras, put more lights, and so on and so forth. I think both understand the needs. So what my appeal to you is that we understand the issue. Where do we bring the two together in order to, while working for the long term, address the short term issues? This is something we have to come to together. And we, as I said earlier, it's a dynamic process. We'll keep learning and we'll keep changing. What I really hope that we do is don't, in our own discussion, to avoid, at least acknowledge the other side, rather than create a highly polarized environment. I've seen a few things today that I hope people will, I have no doubt they understand where each other is coming from. I can tell you, I can easily see myself in either position, but really we're looking for the best compromise. One of the most important things that, two things I want to say. So it's really a matter of balance, but let me say a couple of things. One is that there are a continuous stream of initiatives that's coming out of Europe to reach out to the community. And this is part of our long-term and short-term solution. This is an immediate need to do more. We have been doing a lot. I see a continuing stream of growing number of activities with the community, and I am committed to moving forward with even more of those. I gravitate towards the concept that was raised that there is little, sometimes with our anxious effort to do more, there need to be some sort of an oversight and integration and bringing things together so that we can maximize the impact of our efforts in the short and the long term. Finally, I want to say something, and I say that with complete sincerity, and I can understand both sides of the argument about the police. The police is also part of the community. The police is doing a very important job for society. The police is no different than any other community. So when we talk about a member of the police force said something 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, or what have you, you cannot assume, you should not assume that the entire police force is like that. And we have to work with them. I believe having a conversation with the police and collaborative with the police, again, part of my concept of a dynamic situation. We will learn from them, they will learn from being in close interaction and close coordination with a university as progressive as York University, a university as committed to social justice as York University. So my appeal to you is to continue to work with me. I hope the language will get away. We are in it together. There is no York and the community. We are in it together. There's no administration, students, staff. You want a representation from this and from that. We invited everybody. The invitation was open, and I promise you, we will continue the dialogue. I will continue to lead the dialogue, and this is for those who missed on raising their question. This is not the end of the story. We will continue to have these conversations, and every time we'll have a difficulty, my commitment to you is something I did from day one. Every time we'll have an issue on campus, we'll have a town hall meeting. I'm not going to hide from them. We are not going to hide from them. You should not hide from them. And in acknowledging the extreme opinions, advocacy of extreme opinions in itself is not bad, because it raises the awareness and help identify the proper compromise. So I'm not, again, I mean, God knows, if you dig very closely in my background, you'll find me with extreme opinions. So that's why at some time in my life. So I really appreciate the advocacy on either side. I really appreciate those who are bringing them together, but our job is to talk and be respectful of each other. And I'd like to thank everybody, thank our colleagues in the police force for being here, thank our students, thank everybody who made it here, and also thank our own security people. And by the way, they're not going to be wearing red anymore. I think the new uniform is black. So I hope you don't mix them up with you know which one is police, which one is security. But anyway, they're also doing a wonderful job. They're doing a true wonderful job, and I like to acknowledge that. Mistakes will happen, but our job is to correct that. Thank you.
So just a very few final concrete points. All of the input that we received today, for which we thank you very much, will be forwarded and taken under consideration by our Community Safety Council with our team that is up here. If there are other additional things that we can do, we will be addressing them. We wanted to create an opportunity for you, a website where you could go through the safety at yorku.ca if you have further messages for us. There were some very good suggestions today about other things that we could do on this campus to advocate a prevention approach. That's an opportunity to think about that as well. So I wanted to thank everyone today, and we will make a commitment to you to communicate back to you on what the key messages were today and what additional steps that we can take, and we look forward to an ongoing discussion with all of our community members. Thank you so much.
you.